Hello, brothers and sisters. This is Keith Thompson, and here I am with another Ask Keith question. A fellow subscriber from one of my older channels, my older channel. Uh, Another question they asked me was why I no longer upload to that channel, and it's for the most part because I'm pretty much done with it. I'll leave it around. I may upload to it in the future, but I'm not concerned with it. I'm not really focused on it, and so I told her to please subscribe to this channel. But her question is, in my own opinion, do I believe that Jesus was ever disciplined as a child by Mary or Joseph? And to answer that question, I don't like to give my opinion on things. I like to go to the word to see if I can find it in there. And if it's not in there, it's because God didn't want it in there because he didn't deem it important to be shared. And therefore, now if you're asking me personally, do I believe Jesus was ever disciplined? Uh, as far as spanked, no, no. He was the Lord. He was the Lord in the flesh. Although he was a human being, he was fully human. He was a child. Um, he was the Lord. So I don't see there ever being an instance when the Lord would do something worthy of physical punishment by Mary. I mean, the wisdom Jesus had uh, as a child, it was amazing. The way he spoke to his parents, it was as though in a lot of ways he was the adult. I remember the account in Luke 2, where Mary and Joseph they go down to Jerusalem for the yearly feast of the Passover, and they brought Jesus. And after they were leaving, and on their day's trip back, they lost Jesus. Now, what's interesting about that is, how do you, as a parent, could you imagine you and your husband or you and your wife being downtown and you're with your child, your 11, 12-year-old child. You have a good time and you're heading back and you're walking back to your home and you lose your child. How do you lose your child? Okay. I believe and I honestly believe Jesus supernaturally caused the parents, them to not think of him so that he would be able to spend 3 days in Jerusalem to hear and minister and answer questions as they did. Um, so when they found him, Mary was upset. Okay, she was obviously upset. Uh, it says here in Luke 2:39. Let me see. Wait, actually, it's Luke 2:48. So when they saw him, they were amazed, and his mother said to him, "Son, why have you done this to us? Look, your father and I have sought you anxiously." I don't believe that she came at him angrily, but it was kind of more concerned because she knew what he was and she knew what he was about. And he constantly reminded her. In verse 49, he says, "And he said to them, 'Why did you seek me? Did you not know that I must be about my father's business?'" Now I take you over to verse 51, and this is probably the closest account to a possibility of Jesus being I don't think that's what it is, but I think a lot of people have taken this out of context as to mean that. In verse 51, it says, "Then he went down with them and came to Nazareth, and he was subject to them." Now, being subject to someone could mean the definition of the phrase. One of the points is to cause or force someone or something to experience something harmful or unpleasant. That could be a spanking. I believe personally that it was Jesus submitting unto them fully. Okay, that's what I take it as to being. I don't believe that he was actually physically disciplined. Now, I could be wrong. It doesn't tell us specifically. It doesn't mention anything to that matter. But I believe personally that that was just Jesus submitting to them fully as a child that does to his parents. Um, but just speaking about that, just imagine what it was like to see the Lord, knowing who he was, uh, as a baby, knowing he was the Lord, knowing he was God in the flesh. What was that like? You know, uh, you know, through the generations, Pharaoh, every time a successor was born, they knew he would be the next Pharaoh, but it wasn't the same. Okay, it wasn't the same. When Jesus was a baby, if you were to hold him, you knew you were holding something insane. Something you understand what I'm saying? Like, could you imagine if you were around in the first century when Jesus was born, and you knew Mary and Joseph personally, you were able to be around them and see the Lord, How would you be around the Lord as a baby, knowing who He was? Um, you know, it's just crazy. And the wisdom He had, like at 12 years of age, the way He was able to speak to people. It even says that people marveled; they listened to what He said. No one spoke like Him. As this is a 12-year-old, no one spoke like Him. It's crazy. I constantly marvel at the scriptures, especially the New Testament, situations like this. So I hope I answered your question. I couldn't fully answer. I couldn't give you a direct answer because there's not one in scripture. But and I don't. I really wish God allowed us more insight into the childhood of Jesus. I think that would have been awesome. But I'm grateful that He gave us just this little bit, better than nothing. So, all right, guys. I hope I answered that question. Hope you guys have a blessed day. Take care.